What's happening, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of Fight Wars. Anthony Sanfilippo's here. I'm Bob Wankel. Phillies take 2 out of 3 games against the Washington Nationals over the weekend. They go 5-6 on a little 6-game homestand, and they're sitting pretty here on Monday morning, August 25th. 7-game lead in the National League East over the New York Mets, who, by the way, the Phillies will see for 3 games this week in Queens, with a chance to deliver what I would probably call a knockout blow to the Mets. And so that sets the stage for a very compelling week. A lot of good stuff from the Phillies over the past, 7 days or so. And yet, I don't know about you. I don't think you're going to be surprised by this, Anthony. A little agitated watching the Phillies this week, and like they played the series of their lives this week against the Mariners. I don't expect them to go 6-0 on any homestand. 5-1 is fantastic. You got to feel great about it. You're watching a game this weekend. You're like, come on, guys. Like the Nationals. I know they're young and they're a little spunky and they got some interesting parts. But like, did it have to be that friggin' dramatic all 3 days?
Yeah, it was. Look, I was a little surprised. I said on this show on Friday that I thought that the Phillies were going to smack them around. Like, okay, you gave us your best shot down in Washington. You took 2 games from us out of 4. You hung with us a bit. You came back from a 6-0 deficit, forced us to, put up a bigger number on your bullpen. Like all those things, I thought the Phillies were going to be like, all right, here's the payback. And it didn't really go that way this weekend. Phillies did win the series. Jhoan Duran blows his first game. I think the Nationals got a little lucky. We're going to talk about that a little bit here on the program today. But yeah, I looked at it, was like, okay, this wasn't as easy as I thought it would be or should be. So I don't know. Do you take away from that and go, yeah, I'm still got some questions, or do you take away from that and say, hey, it's a scrappy little team over there. They're playing for, good on the Nationals, good on Miguel Cairo for keeping that team focused and playing in what is a lost season, and they got a lot of young guys who want to make an impression. So maybe it's that. Who knows? But it does leave questions.
I think earlier in the year, the Nationals were a team. There was a lot of friction between the manager and the players. I think that there was a disconnect there that became apparent, quite honestly. And they really went into full freefall mode. And, earlier in the year, I think you and I both said the Nationals might not be quite as bad as some people think. And then they were horrendous. And now you're starting to see that they are a functional team. But I think more than them, chipping away late and making things interesting and fighting back like that, I give them credit for. And I think that a Major League Baseball team from time to time should be able to do that. Or I think the disappointment in this series was against the starting pitching of the Nationals, both yesterday and on Friday night in particular. Talk about Saturday. I think Mitchell Parker is probably one of the 5 worst starting pitchers in Major League Baseball right now in this moment. And, they eventually got to him. They hit some hard outs early, and then they blew up and did what they needed to do. But Friday night, again, against a guy that's seen significant run in AAA this year, who's not been very impressive, who you didn't have success against a week ago, you just didn't do much on Friday night against that starter to really gain some separation early in the game. In fact, you had to claw your way back into it, which was impressive. But you want to see them come out there and sort of keep that offensive momentum rolling. And it was sort of a little bit more of the same yesterday against a guy in Jake Irvin, who is very pedestrian, very run-of-the-mill guy. And they just weren't able to do much. I mean, it was the Rafael Marchand show. And other than that, you leave the bases loaded twice early on, and it's pretty quiet in the later innings. So I think that was the biggest takeaway of why those games were so difficult to put away late. But, you look at the bullpen, and I think that's what a lot of people are going to focus on, not so much the offense necessarily. You make anything of the Duran thing. I kind of agree with what Rob said after the game, where it's like, Mariano Rivera blew 80 of them in his career. And not to say that they're the same guy, but I mean, that is going to happen from time to time. So I kind of just write that off and say, whatever. I don't like seeing Matt Strahm struggle late still. Kerkering is as good as he can be at times. Like you saw yesterday, why it's hard to really buy into the full trust factor with him. You see Jeff Kerr, who covers the Phillies for CBS, and he's always I like Jeff and he does a great job. It's nothing like it's no shot at Jeff, but he'll put out the Ryan Kirkering since June 1, 27 games, 1.50 ERA, whatever whip, and you're like, oh wow, that's really good. Like we should trust him. And then you see what happens yesterday, and you go,
Yeah, and I think with Kirkering, look, he was in a closing situation yesterday, and I know people are going to sit there and say the job is no different, whether it's the 8th inning or the 9th inning. I mean, let's be honest. Yesterday, Kirkering gets a save, but who really saved the game yesterday was Tanner Banks. Right? Okay, so the save,
the Phillies' best left-handed reliever.
Right. So it shouldn't matter what spot you come in, but I think Ryan Kirkering feels better in the 7th, 8th inning than he does in the 9th. He's blown 5 saves this year, right? And yesterday he didn't blow it; he got the save, but it was a tightrope walk a little bit. So I just think that he's better suited for a different role earlier in the game. Just from a mental approach as a pitcher, I just think that that's a better thing for him, right? So I'm fine with Kirkering in the regular role. You do hold your breath a little bit watching him pitch in those 9th innings for sure. Look, the bullpen's the bullpen. Is it better now? It is. I think having more refined roles for Kirkering and Strahm is good. Duran is obviously a difference maker Friday night aside. David Robertson, I think, is an unheralded addition to this team. I mean, you saw the inning he had Saturday where he just came in and was like, you ain't touching me today. Struck out the side, 9 strikes, all swings and misses. I think that they were all swings and misses, I think. He just blew through them. So the bullpen is certainly improved. It's not a lights out bullpen by any stretch of the imagination. And it is a little bit thin at the moment. I still think that there's going to be further changes to it before October. But I think you still need to lean on your starters to kind of get you some length. It doesn't have to be 8 innings or 7 innings every time, but you can't have 3 or 4 inning starts. Like you have to give you some length. And they got some good starts this weekend from some guys that they needed to get good starts from.
Yeah, and I want to get to that a little bit. Stick on the bullpen for a second. So, Matt Strahm's last 7 games, 2.84 ERA, 0.95 WHIP, and 6 1/3. His last 15 games, 2.57 ERA, 1.00 WHIP. Like he's been pretty good. He hasn't been wipe out. It's not like, hey, it's automatic. Why do is it just a me thing or what? Why do when I see him come into the game right now, I hold my breath? Like the numbers I think are better than what I'm giving him credit for. And he is a guy who probably has earned a significant level of trust given what he's been able to do for this team prior to this year. Yet when I watch it, I just go, hold your breath, and do you feel that way as well?
So here's where I'm at with Matt Strahm. Like I trust Matt Strahm in games. I do. But it's obviously he's battling a little bit more this year than he did. It seemed so free and easy last year for him, right? This year it seems like he's fighting his way through some of. But to his credit, he's the kind of guy who he can get out of his own jams sometimes. Sometimes he can't. He's had a couple of instances where I think his last appearance he had to get pulled. He couldn't get the third out, and they had to bring in Kirkering for 1 pitch on Saturday to get that out, right? So you've had a couple of those outings, but I think that he's the kind of guy who's not going to go out there and just implode. He may get a little bit more traffic than he's had in the past. He maybe gives up the odd run here and there, but he definitely doesn't look as sharp as he has in the past. But being a veteran guy, he kind of knows how to battle, and so that's what I see out of Strahm.
So I bring this up because you talk about the composition of what this bullpen might look like in a playoff situation. And it sort of draws into a larger conversation about what we've seen from Christopher Sanchez lately, what we've seen from Jesus Luzardo. He's starting to be a little bit more consistent. And then certainly what we've seen from Ranger Suarez, especially his last 2 times out. There was the assumption that Wheeler's at the top. You have the surplus. Alvarado comes back. You lose him for the playoffs, but you'll be able to slot in Suarez or Luzardo in his place. And then you go into a situation in the postseason where you're carrying Banks and Strom, and then one of your left-handed, surpluses going into a playoff series. Obviously, now that's not the case with Zach Wheeler being out for the season, which we had suspected when we first saw that news. It creates an interesting dynamic because do you have the luxury now of taking either Luzardo or Suarez and slotting them into that bullpen? Or do you say, who are my three best guys? And if they're all left-handed, can you go into a playoff series and go Sanchez, Luzardo, Suarez back to back to back against an opponent? To me right now in this moment, other than this Mets series, which is filled with intrigue and there's going to be plenty to talk about there, I'm very curious to see how the Phillies would go into a potential playoff series and line up this pitching staff.
Yeah, and it's all going to be hinged upon one thing and one thing only. How does Aaron Nola look the rest of September, or the rest of the year, rest of the last month of the season? Like that's the big story, right? I mean, he had an encouraging start on Saturday. I thought he was really good for 5 innings, started the tire in the 6th, gave up 2 solo homers, but on the end, all told, 6 innings, 2 earned runs, 5 hits. It was a good start for Aaron.
Why did the Phillies not give a pitcher who is looking to find his footing a more optimal or favorable defensive alignment behind him?
I think that they're looking at the offensive matchups every game, and I think that I think. Well, I think that the idea is when you lose Wheeler, right? You no longer have the margin for error that you can lean on and say, well, if our lineup's not hitting, the pitching will save us.
Yeah.
Until the offense figures it out. You no longer have that. So at this point, the offense has to improve. And so basically what you're doing is every game you're looking for your best offensive matchups, even if it gives you a slight downgrade defensively. I think that that's what they're going to do. But back to Nola, like that is what dictates, I think, the playoffs and how you set it up.
And how encouraged were you by Aaron Nola on Saturday night watching the broadcast? I mean, and I don't mean this to be, I'm not trying to be a jerk or anything, but like watching the broadcast, like listening to Tom McCarthy, listening to that booth, you'd think that Aaron Nola would look like Cy Young on Saturday night. Like it was so much more encouraging than what we had seen on Sunday. He had worked out of some trouble in the middle innings there. And you're like, wow, this has turned into a really good start. And then, of course, the 2 home runs, and you're like, all right, well, there you go.
Yeah, well, I think, again, it was the first time that he's, got back above 80 pitches in a major league game in more than 3 months, right? I mean, so, you start, and the velocity started to dip in the 6th inning just a little bit. But when he was early in the first 5 innings, he was sitting 93 on that fastball. And I talked to him about it afterwards, and he said, that really helps the curveball, and changeup secondarily. But like it really, he threw more curveballs, higher percentage of curveballs in that game than any start in his career. He threw 44% of his pitches were curveballs in that game. But he felt like he was able to keep batters off balance because his fastball was 93. If that fastball's 90, it's easier to it doesn't help those secondary pitches, right? So I felt like early in the game and for 5 innings, he had that 93 and was able to get it, and that's good. And so if he's able to go 93 and he's locating well, he's going to be the Aaron Nola that you need him to be. If he's not 93 and not locating, he's going to get torched, which we've seen that too, right? One start, it was encouraging. It has to continue through the next month. If it does, he's going to start in the playoffs, and it makes it easier for you to move one of those lefties to the bullpen.
And is it because you owe it to Aaron Nola? Is it because of the experience and pedigree and stature that you do it? Is it because you do need to deviate from 3 left-handed starting pitchers in a row? Or is it about taking one of those lefties and really fortifying the bullpen? And to what end does the matchup matter? Because then that's what I start to look at. One of the exercises I did before we started recording today was where are the probable or potential National League postseason teams at in terms of OPS against lefties and righties? And there are a couple teams that the disparity is pretty significant. The Dodgers, for on the other end of that, are pretty consistent. 763 against lefties, 771 against right-handers, and that's near the top of baseball against both. The Brewers are much better against lefties, 763 versus 734 than they are against right-handers. Cubs, fairly consistent, 737 lefties, 751 righties. But the two that are really interesting are the Mets and the Reds. So the Mets, 692 OPS against left-handed pitching, 768 against right-handed. I mean, that's a sizable difference. And the Reds, 644 against lefties, 731 against righties. Again, much better against righties, both the Mets and Reds. So I rattle off all these numbers and I start to think about it. I say the Phillies and Mets get each other, specifically the Mets, in a postseason series. If you know the Mets are terrible against left-handed pitching, and they are well above average against right-handed pitching, and the Mets have seen Aaron Nola a million times, and I feel like I've seen this Aaron Nola start against the Mets before where it looks exactly like it did last postseason. Do I say, hey, Aaron, you're part of the mix, but we'd like to avoid you in a potential Mets matchup? Like, do you look at it and think there's anything to that? Do you think that there's anything to maybe saying, like, who is our opponent? Let's try to attack them this way.
Well, I do, but I also think that it's a situation where you look at, if you're playing the Mets, let's play this out for a second. So you assume that the Phillies are getting the bye and the Mets are upsetting somebody and they're playing in the 5-game series, or are you talking about Phillies Mets wild card? Because I think it's two different scenarios.
Let's, for the purposes of this, let's work through both, because I think both are very possible. I mean, I think both these scenarios are on the table.
Okay, so let's go with the presumption that the Phillies get a bye. They're right now 2.5 games up on both the Dodgers and Padres for that second seed, and by the way, within 4.5 of the Brewers for the number 1 seed. So it's still within reach. So let's go under that presumption. With the day off, extra day off in that NLDS, and even though it's a 5-game series, you only need 3 starters, right? You can start your game 1, game 2 starter twice each in that series. So in a sense, you can get 4 of the 5 games with left-handed starters and still start Aaron Nola and still have the extra lefty in the bullpen. So it still works, right? In that scenario. So you can sit there and go, we'll have this matchup advantage. If it goes 5 games, we have 4 of them with left-handed starters, and we still have a guy who we could bring into that Aaron Nola start in Jesus Luzardo. If Nola's not going well, we could get him out quick and bring in Luzardo, and he could have that length and be able to kind of piggyback off that. So the whole thing really works if it's a 5-game series. If it's a 3-game series, I think it's a different conversation. If it's a 3-game series, maybe you look at it and go, we're announcing our game 1 and 2 starter, Christopher Sanchez, Ranger Suarez, and then we'll see where we're at in game 3.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's a different conversation at that point.
What's so interesting about this, again, this all assumes health, and it sort of assumes that they are where they're at right now. Like, I'm looking at a Ranger Suarez who over his last 2 starts has gone 13 2/3 innings, allowed 7 hits, 2 earned runs, 21 strikeouts to no walks. So now, where we were starting to look at the declining velocity of Ranger Suarez and the declining production where he's getting knocked around a little bit and go, I don't know if I need to see this in a playoff series. After the last 2 starts, you kind of go, I think I do want to see this in a playoff series. So there's so much volatility with this. Like, I don't know where Ranger Suarez is going to be in 5 weeks. I don't know where Jesus Luzardo is going to be in 5 weeks. I think I know where Christopher Sanchez is going to be, but we're really in the second year of him being this dominant starter. It's not outside the realm of possibility that he has a hiccup or 2 or 3 down the stretch where we start to look at this and go, this is wide open now. And I don't know what we're going to get out of Aaron Nola. I mean, it's pretty compelling stuff, and it's probably going to dictate their ability to navigate the early series of this potential run.
It's why this year the bye is more critical than ever. In the past, I've said there and said, I've looked at it a couple years back, and even 22, going back to 22, said they're better off being in the wild card. Like the path was better for them, right? And it worked in 22. It should have worked in 23. Last year, it didn't work to win the bye because you ended up playing the hottest team in baseball in the Mets at that point. This year, it's unquestionable in my mind. The bye is massively important to the Phillies.
Yeah.
Massively important. They need to win, not just win the division, but they need to be one of the top 2 seeds. You do not want to be in a 3-game series against one of these teams. This isn't, not getting the Marlins in the first round this time around, right? You're going to get a good team in the first round of the wild card, and you got to avoid it.
It's funny that you say this, because it kind of ties into a question or a complaint that I saw a little bit of this weekend. And, we've talked a little bit about what JT Realmuto has been able to do for this team and how big he has been. And it comes up with a huge home run on Friday night. Yes, they lose the game. Still a huge spot for him. His last 30 games, he's hitting .330 with a .374 on base percentage, and .539 slug. I mean, he's been awesome. He's been their most consistent hitter, and that includes Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, Trey Turner. I mean, this guy's been a model of consistency for them. And I can appreciate getting him off his feet yesterday. And Rafael Marchand comes up with the swing of the game and has a good at bat later on, and is able to draw a lengthy at bat and work a walk that scores a run. So it doesn't come back to burn them that JT Realmuto wasn't in the game yesterday. But because of the urgency and because of the need to secure this bye, which I think that they feel is pretty critical to their success as well, do you have any issue with JT Realmuto being out of the lineup altogether on Sunday? Is this what's making him successful, to give him this blow? Or do you say, man, this is our best hitter right now. Why isn't he in the lineup?
So this was planned out well in advance. And we talked to Rob about this during the Mariners series. Actually, it was the final game of the Mariners series, the Wednesday game, and he was in the lineup, and we were sitting in Rob's office, and I forget who it was that asked, said, hey, you're going JT on day game after a night game? And he said, yeah. He said, with the off day tomorrow, we felt comfortable doing that. And we want him to play all 3 against the Mets. So we're going to make his off day this week be Sunday. So this was well planned. So he was getting an off day Thursday and an off day Sunday, so he could play all 3 against the Mariners.
With no off day today, it being the Mets, 3 straight. I would assume that they will want him to play in all 3 of these games. I have no issue with it. It makes sense to me. I understand why they did it. And I was okay for that reason, because it's the Mets, because there's no Monday off. Just get him off his feet entirely.
Yeah. I mean, so it made sense. I didn't know. I mean, could you have sit there and said he could have been off Saturday instead of Sunday? Maybe. Because he can do 4 in a row, right? I mean, but I think that the thought process was have him as fresh as possible for all 3 Mets games, because they matter more than the Nationals games. Let's be honest.
All right, so we're a little bit shorter today. Let's get to this Mets series. You look at the probable pitchers. You have Christopher Sanchez, Kodai Senga tonight. It's a good pitching matchup. Senga has been a little up and down at times, but overall pretty good. Luzardo Minaya on Tuesday night. And then Wednesday is an interesting one, because you have Taijuan Walker, which, though his overall numbers have been good, you never quite know what you're going to get, especially early on in a start from him, versus Nola McLean, who's been really good in 2 games and doesn't quite have that Mets stench on him yet. He's sort of been a breath of fresh air for the Mets. And part of the reason that this series is even still carries some level of intrigue, because if they don't get what they've gotten from him in his first 2 games, you might be talking about the Phillies having a 9-game lead right now. So it sets up where I look at this overall, and I'll be quite honest with you. Christopher Sanchez, if you want to talk about Christopher Sanchez, the Phillies have a better lineup than the Mets, in my opinion, at this point, the way that it's going right now. The Mets have swung the bats a little bit better lately. I like the Phillies more than I like the Mets from an offensive standpoint right now. The Mets bullpen, since the deadline in particular, in which they went out to bolster it, has been a disaster. So for all the complaints about the Phillies bullpen, I tilt Phillies advantage. So then I go Christopher Sanchez, Senga. Show me something tonight. Christopher Sanchez has shown me something for 2 years, but like this is a game they should win tonight. Like let's talk about this series in a way that we hyperbolize and overanalyze and overinflate its importance. Is this series going to make or break the 2025 Phillies? It's not. But I'll go back to what we talked about earlier in the year. This is a team that you kind of owe one. They've blown. Like, let's be honest. Like, let's call it what it is. This Mets team is stuck ass for 2.5 months now. Like, you have an opportunity to come in here and club these guys in the back of the head. Go do it. Like, I want to see some killer instinct this week. And I look at these first 2 games and I say you should win these 2 games. So go win them.
Yeah, I went on Fox 29 last night for their sports show, and we discussed this. And I'm going to bring up a comment here from Sean Crowley, because he said the Phillies have lost 7 straight at Citi Field. They need to win tonight to stop that streak, to get a grip on the series right away. And what I said on Fox last night, I said this series means more to the fans than it does anybody else.
And that's true. It is true.
Right? I like the Phillies could, in all honesty. And I'm not saying that this to just be dismissive of fans. The Phillies could lose these 3 games. They could get swept by the Mets, still have a 4-game lead with 29 games to play. Yeah. And you're probably and still feel good about that, right?
You feel good about the division, but
yeah,
100%. I know you understand. We're talking about 2.5 game lead for a bye. Like to me, it's more about that at this point than it is the Mets.
I agree 100%.
Just happened to be the obstacle in the way this week.
Right. They did right. But I think fans look at it as this is, and that's what he said. They lost 7 straight at Citi Field. Like it's about this rivalry for the fans. And I get it. And I understand that. Yeah, it would be nice for them to go out there and smack this team around. Look, Kodai Senga, as good as his season has been, ERA 6 since the All-Star break. He's walked 17 guys in his last 27 innings. Having a hard time finding the strike zone. Like Phillies need to go in there with a patient approach, right? Very like they put some pitches on this guy, make him throw strikes. If he starts throwing strikes, okay, different conversation. Then you go up there and be a little bit more aggressive. But you got to work this pitcher. Manaya's been not good. Since he's been back. His ERA is horrible.
I was actually going to get to that, and he's a guy that they've made look like a magician, last year. Yeah. So he's one in particular I circle and be like, let's go get this guy. He's been on the ropes lately.
Right. So like I look at those 2 games and I say, even if you struggle against the rookie on Wednesday, right? Even if you do, you got to get at least one of the first 2 because you're going up against starting pitchers that have struggled and a bullpen that has been a disaster, as you mentioned. Like it's important to get one of the first 2.
From the math exercise aspect of it, yeah, like 29 games, they get swept, they're up 4, you're still in pretty decent shape. Your schedule is fairly manageable the remainder of the way. Like you could do all of that. At the same time, what was it? The old T.O. saying, like, if it looks like a rat, it smells like a rat. Like, if you have a chance to go up there with an opportunity to really end this and you don't do it, like, I think that's forgivable. But given this team knocked you out of the playoffs last year, given that they've won 7 straight games in New York, if the Phillies were to get swept in this series, I think it'd be very hard to wake up Thursday morning and not go, a little bit of a fraud alert going on here. And like, I get it. I get the math. I get the formulas. I could open up Baseball Reference and be like, they have a 79.6% chance to win the division still. And I think you take it all in stride when you really catch your breath. But it would be hard to see this team go up there and flounder for 3 games, given the recent history and given it what's at stake in the short term, and not feel a little bit like not great about what that means for October, especially with these first 2 guys on the mound. If Taijuan Walker goes out there on Wednesday and stinks and they lose 7-2, I can live with that, but you better go get at least one of these first 2.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like I think you need to win one of the first 2. I think that if you get one of the first 2, it doesn't matter what happens the rest of the series. It really doesn't. I mean, yeah, sure, you want to win the series. You want to win every series, but you got to win at least one. And I think the first 2 games are you got to get where you got to get the one. You don't want the Mets to go into Wednesday having won a couple games and starting to feel themselves a little bit, right? Yeah. So that's why I think it's important to get one of the first 2. On top of the fact that, you have another opportunity here as far as the bye is concerned for this reason. The Padres are going to Seattle, right? They're playing the Mariners. Now, the Mariners have not been great lately, as we saw. The Mets beat them, Phillies beat them. But they're in the middle of a playoff race, and they're back home. Like, this is an opportunity. The Padres are coming off the Dodgers series, so you hope that maybe the Mariners can help you out a little bit. Meanwhile, the Dodgers are hosting the Reds, who are chasing down the Mets, right? So this is a real opportunity for the Phillies to even give themselves a little bit more breathing room in that bye. Like, because they have, it's not like the Padres and Dodgers are playing the Pirates and the Rockies. They're playing teams that matter. Okay. Yeah. And this is a chance for them. I think that's what makes it important to get at least one of these first two games.
We're a little condensed.
Yeah.
One other thing, there's a couple of things I wanted to hit real quick, and I'm sure you have a couple things.
Yeah.
Jose Alvarado won't appear in October, and so I have a hard time getting crazy about his performance, but that was horrible yesterday. Like, truly terrible. The zone got a little bit weird late in that game. I understand all that, but you know how I say, like, familiarity breeds contempt? I think that his absence made me more fond of him. Like, it's like, because when I watched yesterday, I was like, oh yeah, I remember this. This is why I hate this guy. And I don't actually hate him, but like, this is why this guy makes me want to rip my hair out. And like, I've been a big like proponent of, you use your best guys, set the bullpen up, go all in, win as many games as you can. And if Jose Alvarado is going to be that dude, like, I don't care if he's not going to be there in October, use him in those spots. I know why they had to use him yesterday. They're trying to protect certain guys, they probably did not want to go to Banks and that. Like, you want to try to keep some guys fresh here. He put them in a horrible spot yesterday. Like, that's unacceptable. And so what my question to you would be is, do they just say, all right, never mind. Like, we're going to pull this way back and you're going to be low leverage only break glass in case of emergency guy in high leverage situations? Or do you think it's just, it's a second start or second game back after a prolonged layoff, no harm, no foul, turn the page? Like, how do you evaluate that yesterday?
Yeah, I kind of look at it that way. I don't think so. Maybe in the past, the one thing I noticed yesterday is they got Banks up quick, like really quick. Maybe he's got a shorter leash than he would have had in the past. I mean, I think there have been times in the past where he's gotten bases loaded, nobody out, and they'll keep him in and say, hey man, like, you got the stuff to go get him, go get these guys. You're the strikeout pitcher, not Tanner Banks, right? Like, you bases loaded, nobody out. You need a strikeout there. And they went away from that to go to a guy who have a lesser chance of getting a strikeout. Yeah. So I think that there is a shorter leash on him, but I do still think they're going to use him. And the thing that I thought was curious, and I'm glad that you texted me about it yesterday, is why the hell were they throwing curveballs?
Yeah.
With Jose Alvarado.
Competitive. Just total waste of time.
Like, what was like, that's his third pitch. Yeah. Like, he gets everybody on, the fastball and then the what is it? As a cutter kind of thing. Yeah. Right. Like, those are his pitches. Like, why is he going as heavy as he was with the curveball? Didn't really make any sense. So I don't know if
he put himself in a bad spot in a couple of those counts because of that. And to me, it's like you're holding a 3-run lead against the Nationals, and I appreciate the Nationals' peskiness late in games, but like, go get them.
Yeah.
Stop dicking around and use your best pitches. Go get these guys.
Yeah, I didn't understand. And so I makes me wonder, honestly, in that case, if Real Muto's the catcher, if he's calling as many curveballs. You know what I'm saying? Like, that could be an experience thing. So I also, that could play into why I think that they're not just going to just dismiss Alvarado. Right.
I don't know what else you wanted to talk about, but I have a feeling you're going to point out why the Phillies weren't guarding the lines in the ninth inning with Duran.
I will mention that. I did want to, only because it's the title of our show today. Rob Thompson called Tanner Banks a godsend. Said he's a godsend.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tanner Banks, like if you look at his numbers, Bob, they're actually unbelievable.
Yeah.
Considering who he is.
And he's been pressed into some more difficult yesterday included.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just, oh, look, he's got 2 outs in the 5th of a 5-1 game. Like, he's getting key outs for this team.
And Earl, I can remember beginning of the season, we would have conversations, offline about this guy's not even a major league pitcher. Like, what the hell? And they're using him like they're using him. And all of a sudden, like, he's turned into probably, their second or third most reliable pitcher out of the bullpen.
Best lefty.
What do you make of that?
Ride the wave. He's probably, we talk about bullpen volatility year to year.
Yeah.
Like, he's probably a guy, no offense to him. Great job. I've reached like a comfort zone when he's in games, which is probably a bad thing. But, next year, do I expect to see this happen again? Probably not. But I think you just ride the wave for what it is right now. Kind of reminds me of back in the day. I guess I was probably in high school still, but like Real Cormier, you remember he had just 1 year where he was like off the charts good, and he hung around for a while. He wasn't like some no-name guy, but he had a year where he was incredible. And then, it kind of became more Real Cormier after that. Yeah. I just think that's sort of what you're looking at here. But he's been awesome. And, he comes in, he attacks his zone. He doesn't have any fear. He kind of seems like a guy that's like, this is what I have. I'm going to try to execute. And if you beat me, I can live with that. He doesn't pitch scared. To kind of borrow like the cliche about Ranger Suarez has a slow heartbeat. The moment doesn't change for him. Tanner Banks, I think, has a little bit of that in him as well. So, I mean, yeah, he's been so big for them.
Yeah. Just to kind of give you, again, especially against left-handers, like his OPS against lefties OPS against him, 442. They're hitting 159, 198 on base.
Yeah, I mean, it's not happening by accident. I said like he's probably due for some regression in time, sure, but like, I mean, this guy has proven that he's a legit option in these situations.
Yeah. So I think you might see him against a tough lefty in the playoffs. I think that's a thing. As far as the Duran thing, here, the Nationals had those hits against them, 3 hits, the 2 on Friday, and then the one more on Saturday, where they went line to line. And then, I don't know if anybody saw it, but apparently the dude commented, Lenny Dykstra on Twitter.
Good to see Nails was coherent enough to make that observation.
Make the observation that it's not rocket science that when you're throwing 103 that you should be guarding the lines, because guys can hit opposite field. So Rob was asked about this on yesterday morning, and here's what Rob Thompson had to say. They went back and looked at it. In his career, actually, I should say career. I think he said the last 2 seasons. Last 2 seasons, the number of balls hit down the line opposite field by batters against Jhoan Duran was 4. 3 of them this weekend. So only once previously had that happen. Now, I guess the question more, Bob, is if you're throwing as hard as this guy throws, 103 miles an hour fastball, 99 on a splitter, which is insane, how come you don't have as high a strikeout rate?
Yeah, I think I sent you that message this week. I mean, like, so first of all, the numbers, let's see here. He has, for the Phillies this season, appeared in 9 games, and he's pitched 7 2/3 innings, and he has 9 strikeouts. So a little bit more than a strikeout per inning. He's not striking out anybody, but when you see 102, 103 pop up on the screen, and then he can rip off an occasional curveball at 88, you go, how's this guy not striking out 2 batters per inning? There's a lot of contact. There's a lot of foul balls even. Like, you don't see a lot of guys just swinging through pitches. You asked the question. I'll leave it to you to answer. I mean, it was my observation. I kind of just said, it's like strange to me that guys are able to, I mean, we've watched this, even these games where he's been really good. And by no means am I being critical of him. Like, it's not a criticism, but you see, like, he gets ahead. It's 1-2, ground out the shortstop. Guys have been able to put the ball in play at a higher rate than I would expect when you see his stuff.
The only answer I can give you is that when you're throwing that hard, maybe you're not locating like on the black. You're probably getting a little bit too much of the zone. And you've heard the line, and this is what I texted you. You've heard the line in the past that major league hitters can time up the nose of a jet plane if given an opportunity, right? So, if you put the ball somewhere they can hit it, they're likely going to make contact. So it's more about the fact that he's probably throwing the ball over the plate more than most pitchers do, and he's able to get away with it.
Yeah, and I mean, like the
because of how hard he throws.
The quality of contact hasn't been very good.
Right.
The guys aren't so in one on one hand or in one breath, you go like, why can guys put it in play? But they're also not teeing off on him. I mean, opponents this season were hitting 219 against him in Minnesota, 207 against him with the Phillies. And what's really helped him is that across those 7 2/3 innings, he's yet to walk a batter. So, you give up a hit here or there. He's given up 6 in those 9 appearances, which is good, but you compound that with the fact he's not walking anybody, and you say like, okay. I mean, the whole thing has been a huge win for them, and he's gotten the job done more often than not. And he might have actually escaped it the other night, despite some bad luck in terms of the batted ball. I thought Brandon Marsh made a great throw to home. I don't know if you shared that belief, but I think if it doesn't hit the runner, there's a pretty good chance that he's out at the plate. And then obviously JT, probably would have liked to have had that one back that he threw into left field. So
he even said it afterwards. Like, Rob tried to defend him and said, he thought he had the guy. And Real Muto even said afterwards, he's like, I should have probably held on to the ball, because just let Duran strike the guys out and get out of it. And that's what he did. Yeah. In retrospect. And hey, those things happen, whatever. You're not going to save every game. Like Rob said, even the best blew a couple. I'm not sure Rivera blew 80. I try to look it up. I
took that at his word. I said, 80. That sounds about right.
I looked it up, right? And there was no real it's not a real statistic, blown saves. Like Major League Baseball doesn't track it. So every site had like a different number, and Fangraphs didn't have any tracked for the first 7 seasons that Rivera pitched. So who knows how many there were in those years, but after that it was 46. So was it quite 80? Probably not. It was probably somewhere around 60 though. I mean, so even still.
Just you can't blow back to back. It was important that he saved the game Saturday night, because everyone's bitching and moaning about NBC Sports Philly cutting away from the intro. And I'll tell you what, one thing about Phillies fans, like they've all jumped on the wave here. Duran's my guy. I've always loved him. I've always been a big Duran guy. You blow 2, 3 in a row, that entrance loses its juice a little bit.
Exactly. And as Sean says, just do what I blame it on the Friday night uniform.
Yeah. I stand with Sean on that.
We're with you on that, my friend. One last thing, and again, I know we do a lot of Dodgers Padres. Padres had a nice bounce back, took 2 of 3 from the Dodgers this past weekend, showed that they can hang with them a little bit, which is good. All right, fine, fair enough. But more than anything else, the thing that I wanted to kind of talk about was, Ohtani hits a home run yesterday. And here's a guy who's very stoic, right? You don't see much emotion from him on the field, whatever. He started getting into it with a fan after the home run who was heckling him. Is this a sign that this guy's got rabbit ears, or do you look at it and go, good for Shohei? Good for Shohei. Somebody's giving it to you, you give it right back. You like that moxie. Where are you at on this, Bob?
It's a great question. I don't like Shohei Ohtani, right?
I asked it.
So of course you see it and you go, oh, and then you look at everybody online going, oh, Shohei having fun with the Padres fan. Like, good on him, and good on the Padres fan for having some fun with it too. And this is a great story. And Shohei Ohtani and Major League Baseball go together like America and apple pie. And like, I don't know. I mean, like, if Bryce Harper did that, like, I'd probably be like, ha ha ha, I'd probably like it. So for the matter of consistency, I'll say it was fine. Does he have rabbit ears? Maybe a little bit. Yeah, I don't know.
So it makes you wonder if the Phillies play the Dodgers.
I mean, he was right there though. That fan apparently, like Dave Roberts,
Yeah.
like whatever. Not that I'm going to take him for what he has to say necessarily at face value, but like, he said the guy was extremely annoying throughout the game, and it's not like Ohtani went over there and like did anything vulgar. Like he just dapped him up a little bit. So like in that way, like I guess I'm all right with it. I'll go pro Shohei on this one.
Yeah, I'm cool with it too. I'm cool with the interplay, but I would, I hope Philadelphia takes notice, because if in fact the Phillies play the Dodgers in the playoffs, and I think it's becoming more and more increasingly likely that will be a division series possibility. Just take note, man. Like, you want to get on that guy's case a bit, like you've done in the past with booing Spencer Strider and
4,000 people learning Japanese before the Dodgers.
Whatever it takes to get it, to win it, right? We'll give it. So there's the Lenny line. Well, since we talked about Dykstra earlier, whatever it takes, dude. Whatever it takes. Get on Shohei if you want to have that happen like that. That's something just to put in your back pocket, that he hears that stuff. So good.
45 home runs for that guy too. Like I have to say he's pretty good.
Yeah, he's a pretty good player. All right, well, that's it for us today. It's a slightly shortened version of the show. I have to head up to New York, to Citi Field. I've been at the last 5 losses at Citi Field. Hopefully that streak breaks for me the next few days that I'm up there. But we will be back.
They lose the first 2. You're out of there. You get out of there on Wednesday.
I can't say Wednesday, right? I can't say if they lose the first 2, right? But anyway, thanks for tuning into Fighting Words. You can always subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Pandora, wherever you get your podcasts. We love it best when it's right here on YouTube. Click that thumbs up, ring the bell. That way you make sure you never miss a show, and you'll get an alert on your phone or on your device, whatever you're watching us on, and know when Bob and I go live. And we never know what time. It's going to be busy season now for Bob as it's approaching football season. So it's going to be betting time. So who knows what time of day we will be recording this show. But it will be consistent. We will do 2 a week. It will happen. We'll be back on Friday. Oh, for those of you in the podcast feed who, if you're looking for us on YouTube, it's youtube.com/@FightingWords. But we will be back on Friday, breaking down what happened this week with the Mets, and then they got the Braves coming in, and see where things are. So for Bob Wankel, I'm Anthony Sanfilippo saying thanks for tuning in to this episode of Fighting Words, and we will talk to you again. Have a great weekend or week, everybody.